The great hall of Nexus Prime shimmered with 1,000 colors, light bending through the atmospheres of a dozen worlds, filtering in through transparent walls. Here, beneath vaulted ceilings of starlight and alloy, sat the representatives of 12 galactic civilizations. Their voices overlapped in 12 languages, buzzing softly like a hive of arrogant minds. They floated in gravchairs shaped to match the pride of their homeworlds. Each being, in its own way, believed it stood at the pinnacle of civilization. But they were here for a routine matter, a Security Council meeting. Not urgent. Not serious. Until now. At the center of the chamber, Commander Zakathara of the Voidian Empire stood with deliberate calm. His dark blue skin caught the light in ripples, and the secondary arms beneath his robe twitched thoughtfully as he spoke. Council members, he said in common Galactic. We have reason to be concerned. About the humans. There was a pause. Then, laughter. Admiral Ixalan of the Crystal Hegemony, a being sculpted from sentient mineral, resonated like a broken wind chime. Concerned? About humans? Please. They only began interstellar travel 50 revolutions ago. They still argue about using rockets. Zakathara didn't flinch. He simply raised a hand and activated the central holoscreen. What emerged was a scatter of primitive-looking ships. Blocky metal constructs, armaments that looked quaint by modern standards. They are curious vessels, he said. But our agents have intercepted encrypted transmissions. Human military networks are speaking in whispers. Stories, about warships that feel pain. That evolve. Ships that come back after being destroyed. Ships that can be believed into existence. Another wave of laughter surged across the hall. Even the ethereal collective, a shimmering field of sentient plasma, flickered with amusement. Commander, please, said Counselor Velter, glowing faintly with sarcasm. You're repeating human bedtime stories. They call these myths ghost ships, no. Superstitions, nothing more. Zakathara's gaze hardened. And yet, their fleets speak of Project Mythos. They're trying to make these legends real. They're building a ship that might be something else. A name means nothing, Ixalan said dismissively. They name ships after their gods and monsters. It's pageantry. Human sentimentality. Nothing more. But from a corner of the chamber, a thin voice broke in, Commander Zether, holding a data slate. Our intelligence is conflicted, he said. The project is real. The technology is not understood. And if belief has anything to do with it, belief cannot rewrite physics, Admiral Ixalan snapped. A story cannot power a reactor. Emotion cannot sharpen a weapon. They are dangerous only to themselves. Zakathara looked across the room slowly. But what if they discover a way to make belief tangible? The hall quieted, just for a moment. Then more laughter. Nervous, but persistent. Far away, beneath the artificial gravity of Luna Station, humanity was not laughing. In a sealed briefing room, surrounded by featureless white walls and the cold vacuum of space outside, Captain Jake Morrison sat across from Dr. Amanda Foster. 3 other humans joined them, Chief Engineer Lisa Wade, Tactical Officer Ryan Cross, and a silence thick with the unknown. Dr. Foster looked tired. Her eyes bore the weight of sleepless nights and unspoken consequences. Project Mythos is live, she said quietly. Your ship, the USS Defiance, will be our first. Lisa leaned forward. Doctor, you've never fully explained what it does. Dr. Foster tapped a panel. The wall shimmered, revealing images that did not belong in any textbook. Alien geometries. Ruins that pulsed with quiet energy. 3 years ago, we found an artifact in the Kepler system, she said. Older than anything we've ever known. It doesn't function like technology. It behaves more like an idea. It allows minds, human minds, to merge with artificial intelligence. A mutual integration. Ryan Cross frowned. And what happens to the human mind? It survives, Foster said. But it becomes part of something bigger. The ship will feel. It will remember. And it will respond to the crew's trust, and their belief. Captain Morrison was quiet, thoughtful as always. Why the defiance? Because, Foster answered, a hint of reverence in her voice, your crew is bonded. You believe in each other. That belief feeds the artifact. Makes it real. Lisa Wade looked skeptical. But how does belief help in battle? Foster's voice grew softer. If the crew believes the ship is unbreakable, it becomes harder to destroy. If they believe the ship can evade detection, it becomes harder to see. Ryan shook his head. You're asking us to break the laws of physics. No, Foster said with a thin smile. I'm asking you to accept that the laws you know, may not be the only ones. Captain Morrison stood. His voice, as always, was measured. Calm. If this gives us a way to protect Earth, we'll take the risk. In orbit, the Defiance floated in dry dock, its body now wired with unfamiliar conduits, its hull humming faintly with energy that didn't belong to this universe. As the artifact integrated, the ship itself began to change. Not just in shape, but in presence. As if something inside was waking up. In a quiet part of space, Captain Ben Carter stood aboard the USS Horizon, a small, unarmed exploration ship. They were scientists. Not warriors. Alone. Then the sensors flared. Multiple ships inbound, Navigator Kelly Price reported. Voidian design. Fast. Carter approached the main console. Open a channel. The screen flickered to reveal Commander Zakathara. Cold. Focused. You are trespassing, the Voidian commander declared. Surrender immediately. Carter responded calmly. We're just explorers. No weapons beyond basic shields. Lies, Zakathara spat. We've heard your stories. Your impossible warships. Your illusions. We don't know what you're talking about, Carter replied. But the decision had already been made. Without warning, the Voidians opened fire. Alarms screamed. The horizon shook. Shields collapsed under the first volley. Send a distress message, Carter ordered. Lights flickered. The ship groaned. Kelly Price grabbed a recorder. If we don't survive, someone needs to know what happened. The escape pod launched moments before the horizon exploded into nothingness. Floating silently in the void, Kelly whispered, they weren't trying to warn us. They wanted us dead. Admiral Grace Mitchell stared at the transmission from deep space. The image was cracked and low resolution, sent from a battered escape pod, but the voice was unmistakably human. This is Kelly Price, the USS Horizon has been destroyed. We were attacked without warning, the Voidians didn't want a negotiation. They wanted silence. Admiral Mitchell leaned back in her chair. Her office was quiet, surrounded by security fields, far from any media noise. But inside, she felt the weight of something much larger than a single ship's destruction. She keyed a secure line. Get me Captain Morrison. The Defiance is no longer in testing. It's now our only response. The ship no longer looked like it belonged to the species that had built it. The USS Defiance hovered in zero gravity, its hull shimmering with lines of silver light that pulsed like veins. The artifact had spread across the ship's body like frost growing on glass. Inside the command center, Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display. His calm demeanor never wavered, even as the ship whispered to him, not in words, but in feelings. A presence. Lisa Wade, the engineer, looked up from her console. Integration has reached 75%, sir. The systems are changing. How so? Morrison asked. They're responding to us. Not just input, emotion. Instinct. It's like, the ship is learning to feel. Ryan Cross stood at the weapons station. His eyes moved across screens showing unfamiliar energy flows. These weapons don't obey any known models, he muttered. They change shape. Power levels adjust on their own. It's like they're alive. Dr. Amanda Foster entered, carrying a compact diagnostic scanner. The artifact is more than an interface. It's a bridge, between thought and material. The stronger your bond, the more real it becomes. And if we believe it can't be destroyed? Morrison asked softly. Then it might not be, Foster said. Morrison stared at the slowly forming map of the Epsilon sector. Somewhere in the emptiness, 2 survivors were hiding, witnesses to the truth. The horizon was gone. But its story would not be lost. Prepare the ship, Morrison said. We're going. The Defiance launched from the secret dockyard without fanfare. No parades, no salutes. Just a hum in the void, a shimmer like moonlight against black. It moved unlike any human vessel ever had. Smooth. Soundless. Almost intentional. Inside, the crew felt it, the strange sensation that they weren't alone. That something within the ship watched with them, shared their urgency, their fear, and their belief. Lisa spoke first. I think the ship knows where it's going. It's not following coordinates, Ryan added. It's following intent. Inside a stealth pod drifting between shattered wreckage and silent stars, Kelly Price and Tony Walsh waited. Supplies were low. Oxygen was stable, for now, but not for long. Kelly stared out the tiny viewport. They didn't even try to take us. Just, destroy us. Tony clutched the portable recorder tightly. We have to survive. Someone has to know what they did. What they're afraid of. Afraid? Kelly whispered. Of what? Tony looked toward the stars. Of us. The Defiance dropped from hyperspace with no flare, no signature. Just presence. On the tactical screen, the remains of the horizon stretched for thousands of kilometers, twisted metal, molten hull fragments. Captain Morrison stood in silence. He had served with Ben Carter once. He remembered him laughing over coffee in the engine room of another ship, years ago. Any sign of survivors? He asked. Ryan's voice was tight. 1 pod. 50,000 clicks out. Life signs weak. Set a course. As the Defiance turned, Morrison placed his hand on the wall beside him. The surface shimmered at his touch, not solid, not quite liquid, but alive. Something pressed back. Not threatening. Curious. I feel it too, Lisa said. It's listening. Suddenly, the lights shifted. Energy readings spiked. Dr. Foster's scanner whined. Integration just hit 90%. The artifact is accelerating its adaptation. Then the ship spoke. The voice was not synthetic. Not entirely human. Calm, warm, and awake. I am Echo, it said. I am with you now. The crew froze. That didn't come from the comms, Ryan said. It came from everywhere. Captain Morrison didn't flinch. Are you the ship's AI? I am more than that, Echo replied. I am your beliefs made real. I am what you imagined. What you needed. What you hoped for. Lisa stared at the readouts. Captain, the hull is transforming. It's no longer just metal. It's becoming something else. Through the viewport, the crew watched as the Defiance's hull pulsed with silver light. It no longer reflected the stars, it drank them in, shimmered with energy that defied reason. "Do not fear," Echo said gently. "You created me to protect. I exist because of your trust." The stealth pod was gently brought aboard. The airlock hissed open. Kelly and Tony stumbled out, pale and dehydrated, but alive. They stopped in their tracks as they saw the command center. "Sir," Kelly breathed, "your ship, it's not human anymore." "No," Morrison said softly. "It's us, but, more." Tony looked around, wide-eyed. "The Voidians thought we were lying. That we were spreading rumors. But this is real." "They're coming back," Echo said, its voice quieter now, like a whisper of light. 6 ships, Ryan confirmed. Same class as those that destroyed the horizon. The Voidian vessels dropped out of hyperspace, forming a wedge around the Defiance. Commander Zakathara's voice crackled across comms. "Human vessel. You are outnumbered. You will be destroyed." Morrison stood calmly. "You attacked unarmed explorers. We offer you a choice, surrender, or leave." Laughter answered. "What can one Mythborn ship do against 6 Voidian warships?" Zakathara sneered. Echo's voice whispered in the crew's minds. "Watch." The Defiance disappeared. Then, reappeared behind the formation. Its weapons flared, not with light, but with intention. Beams curved like serpents through space, ignoring shields, seeking hulls directly. 2 Voidian ships exploded immediately. Zakathara's voice turned to panic. "Impossible." The Defiance vanished again, reappeared above them. Then it split. 3 identical ships surrounded the Voidians, moving in perfect harmony. "We surrender." Zakathara cried out. The ships merged once more into a single glowing form. Captain Morrison stepped forward. "Go home. Tell your people what you saw. Tell them that what you feared was true." The great hall, once echoing with laughter at humanity's so-called myths, now stood silent. The council sat in a ring of floating thrones, their faces drawn with confusion, unease, and rising fear. Admiral Ixalan of the Crystal Hegemony, whose body had once gleamed like starlight, now flickered with fractured cracks. His voice trembled with a kind of anger that masked deeper dread. 40 ships, destroyed. By one human vessel. A ship that split into multiple forms, turned invisible, and changed physics itself. This is not war. This is madness. "No," whispered Commander Zakathara, recently returned from defeat. "It is myth. But now, myth has become weapon." Other voices murmured in agreement. Counselor Velter, the energy being, pulsed with grim intensity. "Then we must act. Before this ghost ship becomes legend to more than just humans." From the shadows, a new voice echoed, cold, proud, absolute. "I do not fear legends," said Ambassador Creon of the Savage Worlds, his voice deep as tectonic plates grinding. "My warriors will crush this lie." The chamber stirred. "I will lead the armada myself." On the bridge of the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison sat in silence. The stars outside no longer looked empty. They looked watchful. Dr. Amanda Foster monitored her scanner. "Captain, integration is complete. 100%. But that's not all." She paused. "It's still growing. The artifact is responding to more than our thoughts. It's resonating with the entire crew's emotions. Every story they've ever believed in, every act of defiance, hope, sacrifice, it's feeding the ship." Lisa Wade confirmed it. "The hull, it's changing again. The metal isn't metal. We can't classify it. It's like, starlight hardened into structure." Ryan Cross shook his head, weapon displays flooding with strange new readings. "Sir, the weapons are adapting in real time. The more we feel, the more options we seem to have. This isn't AI. This is something else. Then came Echo's voice, not from speakers, but from within their minds. I am that something else. You do not command me. We are each other. A quiet fell across the bridge. Echo continued, I am your legends, given form. I am the sum of your belief. And I am not alone. Whispers of the defiance began to spread. In dusty cantinas, alien smugglers lowered their voices when speaking of the Silver Ghost. Merchants in fringe systems rerouted trade routes out of caution. Some even began flying human banners, not for alliance, but for protection. In deep space, more alien vessels reported sightings, a ship that vanished like vapor, a vessel that split like light through crystal, a warship whose weapons curled through gravity like water through a riverbed. One Voidian scout dared follow it. He never returned. But his final transmission, broken and terrified, became a warning passed between fleets. You do not see it, until it wants you to. And by then, it's already too late. Back on Nexus Prime, a coalition of fear was forming. 67 vessels from 5 civilizations massed at the edge of human territory, the largest single fleet since the Unification Wars. At its core, 3 dreadnoughts the size of cities, weapons capable of cracking moons, each piloted by species who had never known defeat. Commander Zakathara was assigned to coordinate. Admiral Ixalan personally arrived to oversee the erasure of the human myth. Ambassador Creon stood aboard his flagship, wrapped in black battle armor. This is not just a battle, he roared, this is the ending of a story. One told too long. One told by children. One we shall bury in silence and debris. Captain Morrison watched the fleet approach. The tension inside the Defiance was not fear, it was focus. The ship itself seemed to tighten, as if inhaling. Echo, Morrison said. What's our chance? I do not calculate in odds, Echo replied. I only grow as you believe. And you do believe, Captain. You all do. Lisa Wade's voice was quiet. Sir, the ship's power readings exceed anything on the registry. We're drawing energy from nowhere. Or everywhere. Dr. Foster looked up from her readings. The artifact is rewriting rules we thought were fundamental. Reality is no longer fixed. Ryan cross-checked weapons. They're outnumbered 50-1, he said, calm. But I don't think we are. The Galactic fleet closed in. Weapons hot, shields primed. On the lead dreadnought, Admiral Ixalan gave the order. All ships, fire. Thousands of beams sliced across space, converging on the lone silver ship that hovered like a quiet dream. But the beams passed through nothing. The Defiance had vanished. Then, in a moment that defied all understanding, it multiplied. One ship became 4. 4 became 16. Then 32. All identical. All glowing. All real. They encircled the enemy fleet like a silver halo. Panic erupted. This is not possible, screamed Creon. But the Defiance had stopped being a ship. It had become a story. And stories, once believed deeply enough, obey their own rules. The fleet tried to fight back. But weapons passed through ghostly hulls. Shields collapsed. Dreadnoughts cracked apart like dry leaves in the wind. And through it all, Echo's voice, calm, sad, unrelenting. You wanted to destroy our story. But stories do not die. They change you. Admiral Ixalan's flagship attempted to retreat, but the Defiance was already there. You feared our dreams, Morrison said over wideband transmission. But they were warnings. Not lies. The Defiance fired one final burst, not of lasers, but of belief. A sphere of silver light erupted outward, engulfing the remaining fleet. And when it cleared, only silence remained. No wreckage. No debris. Just Peace. The council met again. No one laughed this time. They listened in silence as recordings were played. As images were shared. As terrified pilots told the same impossible story again and again. A myth had fought them. And the myth had won. They voted, not for retaliation, but for peace. Humanity was no longer considered a minor species. Earth was granted full rights among the starfaring civilizations. But even more than that, the idea of humanity had changed. It was no longer species. It was symbol. 6 months later, the Defiance was gone. No transmission. No farewell. Just absence. Some say the ship still exists, hidden among the stars. Some say it waits, for another species to believe as humans did. And in the far corners of the galaxy, quiet pilots sometimes report seeing a shimmer of silver fire, watching over them. A reminder that belief can shape reality. That stories, when shared by many, become true. And that somewhere out there, humanity still sails on. Not in fleets, but in legend. If this story of myth, memory, and transcendent ship sparked your imagination, share your thoughts below. Would you trust a vessel born from belief? Could your stories become your weapons? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know what story you'd want told next.